You're muted, dude.
I'm muted.
There you go.
Who said rust is a thing, right? So welcome back, everybody. Been a little while since we've done one of these. My schedule has been insane. I'm streaming here from St. Louis, Missouri. My wife is back home holding it down. And if those of you that are on here already, which I'll let some of you trickle in here, check the background out. I'm pretty happy with that. Of course, the light's kind of glaring off of it from the window, but made that. We'll kind of go over that in a later video, but that picture in the middle, that's a smallmouth that was painted by a local artist named Dwayne Hayda. We're really big fans of his, so definitely like to have something like that on there, and we'll expand that later. We'll switch some stuff out, but that's probably, if you've watched a couple of my latest videos, you've probably seen that in the background. So, Christina, how are you?
Alive and kicking. I haven't seen you in like a week and a half, man.
Yeah. It's going to be a few more days, unfortunately. I come home Saturday night, right?
I think so.
Yeah, Saturday. Well, it'll be late.
Yep.
So this is not just us reintroducing our live stream to you guys. It's kind of us getting to talk to each other again. So a lot's been going on. Obviously, the last week has been kind of rough for a lot of us. So I thought it'd be kind of appropriate to not do anything around that time. But, a lot's happened. So for one, Hobie apparently has been bought by Bass Pro Shops, and specifically the White River Management Group that does acquisitions for them. Apparently it was leaked out by an employee of Bass Pro Shop that knew of the situation and was part of it. So I don't know that it's been finalized, but from what I've heard, it's been pretty much a done deal. So what does this mean? So I've done videos on Hobie. I've talked about their financial struggles, just what I know of, obviously. And, there's some people that fall on both ends of the spectrum. One is nothing can ever go wrong with Hobie. And the other side is Hobie is the worst thing to ever happen in kayaking. In the middle is kind of the truth, though. They kind of set the standard for years and years and years. They fell off a little bit with parts availability, customer service issues, and just really public perception. Hobie's kind of that brand that everyone loves to hate or loves to love. We own a Hobie. I've been accused of being a Hobie hater. Nothing is further from the truth, honestly. But, I try to be unbiased. So Hobie makes some great kayaks. Hobie has definitely made some missteps in kayaks and also just some decisions they made. My biggest issue with them is the abandonment of the local paddle shop, and that's really the only issue I've got with them. After my video I did about is Hobie in trouble, I actually heard from Hobie on that, and the one question that didn't get answered that I asked a couple of times in that phone call was paddle shop. So, I'm talking about your local specialty retailers, and specifically I kind of saw this coming, but I kind of also thought that had passed, as far as Bass Pro taking over, because Bass Pro has been selling Hobie on their website for about a year and a half. And a lot of people didn't even know that you could do that. But sure enough, you can go on their website, Bass Pro or Cabela's. You can look at a Pro Angler. I believe an Outback. I'm not positive on the Outback, but I know the Passport and all that. And it's more of a going from Hobie to the customer, and Bass Pro's kind of facilitating that. But the thing that concerned me, and the thing that still concerns me right now, is Bass Pro did not, at that time, do any warranty or any service work. So they left that to the paddle shops, the specialty retailers that are set up to do that warranty work, and they're just selling the kayaks. Well, there's a big problem in that. So if you go to Bass Pro, me and Christina are huge fans of Bass Pro. We go there all the time. We've been in Bass Pros in 3 different states probably now.
Yeah.
It's a nice place. Don't get me wrong, but kayaks are kind of not the best. But they fill a need. So what does Hobie do? Is Hobie going to be in physical stores? Is Bass Pro going to support your local specialty shops, or are you just going to see the 360 drive in an Ascend kayak? We don't know. I got my opinion on what I think will happen. I got my opinion on what I hope will happen, but really we're kind of a wait and see right now. Cause there were some other buyers that really kind of came and went on this. And it almost happened. And I'm not going to throw any other company's name out there just because that's really none of my business to even how I knew that. But I'm just looking through the comments here. So we're playing around.
I'm doing some research.
So we got Jay in here. Jay, how's it going, buddy?
Ooh, that's a good point, Andrew.
Yeah. Just don't hit it with that.
True.
And honestly, the Hobie makes a good inflatable. The iTrack series, really the only thing they did at iCast, which I think they were kind of handcuffed on what they could or couldn't do. You got a company that isn't really in the green, so to speak. You're not going to be spending a lot of money on research and development, especially when you for sale. So they really just kind of upgraded, if you will, the iTrack series into the iTrack Angler. They made it a little wider. I think it was another chamber of inflation for a little bit more stability. Made it to where you can motorize it, and you now have the 180 drive as opposed to just the standard drive. So still cool. I'm a fan of inflatables personally. I know it's not everyone's cup of tea, but inflatables, when you're talking about no wind, because, again, just like any kayak, it's got its limitations. But I think really what is going to happen is you're going to see a lot more innovation in that inflatable market, because that's going to get more people into the kayak scene, people that don't have trailers and trucks and shop buildings and garages to keep all these big kayaks in. Sometimes it's just nice to have access to the water no matter what your situation is. And I think inflatables kind of gives you that.
Andrew, I was about to talk about that. So everyone uses them for salt. I have seen Hobies in saltwater. I mean, there's a part of me that thinks they're really made for that.
Yeah,
they do really well in those environments,
especially pedal drives for sure.
Yeah, because you're going to be moving a lot of water. Saltwater fishing, that's a different game, and that's quite a bit more travel than we do on lakes. So
yeah. Well, I mean, our friend Darren Wendell, he's kind of getting around a little bit more now, and he's actually fallen in love with saltwater fishing on kayak. So I've got kind of a tricky relationship with the ocean. I like the ocean. I don't necessarily need to be in the ocean to enjoy it. I'm a bit of a sissy on that. I've had I had a deep laceration one vacation years and years ago, of course, before me and Christina ever knew each other. And that's where I got my shark tattoo at, because it was shark bait. I got a really bad laceration on my heel. I filled the water up with blood. They had to they temporarily evacuated a portion of Waikiki Beach because of my foot. So I'm yeah.
I don't think I've heard that story. I know the shark, but I didn't realize that.
Well, that's where I got the shark tattoo with, and that was kind of it's not like a custom job. It was just, I went into this place and I saw up on the wall he had different pieces of flash. I was like, yeah, just give me that one. I think it was like $60 or something. One of them cash only type places. It was that kind of neighborhood I was in. So So I'm really curious on what you guys think on the Hobie deal. What does this what does this do? Not necessarily for Hobie specifically, because Hobie just is trying to stay afloat right now, literally and figuratively. But
Shane asked a good question over here. What will happen to the resale market for Hobies?
That's a good question. I think the resale market for Hobie is terrible right now anyway. I don't think it's going to hurt it, but I don't think it's going to help it. So public perception is your resale value, obviously, and your saturation factor. So the more kayaks are out there, of a certain kind, the less it's going to be worth. Hobie is no different, because a lot of people, and I've seen some people trying to sell like old warranted hulls on Facebook Marketplace and passing it off as a brand new kayak or a warranted kayak. And, I think even people that really enjoy Hobies, if they have the Pro Angler, a lot of them have they're on that second or third hull. So they've got some things that need to be fixed. Personally, if I owned Hobie and I had deep pockets, which Bass Pro does and has, honestly, I would focus so much on customer service. I would be running in the red for at least a couple of years. You've got a lot of people that feel hurt or betrayed because they go out and they spend. Because when you think of Hobie, what do you think about? You think of a $5,000 kayak. You think of the Pro Angler. They make so many more kayaks that are really, really great. But the Pro Angler, the Pro Angler is where I think they float or sink, honestly, and it hasn't been there. And the public confidence is going to be really low on that because cracked hulls, drives blowing up. I mean, there's so many things wrong right now, and there's no confidence in that it's been fixed. There's a lot of people that's had issues with the new XR edition. So our friend Alex Rudd, he's one of them.
So the thing about that is that kind of leads us into the next piece of that, which is the warranty stuff. And I'm going to clue you guys into a conversation that him and I actually had this week on the phone. I looked at him and said, so what does this mean for the links?
Yeah.
Real conversation that we're having now, because we've got a link sitting in our garage. And I'm going, so is this going to be something happens and we're just done?
You can make the argument it's going to be that way anyway. Because how long have we had that? It's been a couple of years.
2 or 3 years, I think.
So the warranty on the links is a little bit different than the rest of theirs because it's obviously not rotomolded. You still got some warranty on the drive, but yeah. So, and I kind of put the question out on Facebook today, just asking people, how close are you to your nearest paddle shop, your specialty retail store? Not big box stores, because I know some of them sell kayaks, but some of the answers didn't surprise me, but they're kind of eye-opening. And there's a lot of these paddle shops that are closing down. And I'm talking about the big boys. I'm talking about Tulsa Kayak, OKC Kayak, all of those. And even here, we had one in Central Arkansas closed down in H24, although I think he's trying to get back into it slowly. And then we had a Watchtower Outfitters down in Hot Springs area. They closed down. These are big retailers that have a big footprint and a long tenure. So not only is it getting harder for people to touch these, what I call mid to upper tier kayaks, but it's getting harder for them to buy it. Say what you want, you go and you're having to travel further. Well, if you're just starting out, you don't already have a passion for it. It's going to make it harder and harder to feed that passion. So very curious to see what the industry is at in about 5 years as far as your local retail footprint. If there's no local paddle shop present, honestly, I think some of these manufacturers are going to have to start looking at creating their own local footprint because it's profitable. It's there. You got to do it right. You got to have the right people, obviously, but there's enough people out there, I think, that are knowledgeable enough or have the the work ethic enough to really make it go. And honestly, the online retailer fills a niche, but that's not the way to go, in my opinion. Eco does their thing and they do it well, but there's a lot of bad a lot of bad experiences out there from that, and it's kind of out of Eco's control. But that's kind of what you get with an online retailer. You get damage from trucks. You get your nice pro angler coming in, and you're already kind of nervous about it, and it shows up and it's got 2 holes from a forklift sticking in the side of it. So, I think we're close to the tipping point as far as your online versus physical retailer footprint there. I'm not going to go too far on that, because I've kind of shouted that from the top of a mountain several times already. But it's something that you need. If you've got one of those shops close to you, you need to support them, because you're not going to pay more at a shop than you are at a big box store. That's going to go by brand. Obviously a Pelican is going to be cheaper than a Jackson or a Hobie or a Bonafide. So, but if you're in the market for something like that, even just casually make a road trip. These are some of the coolest places on earth to hang out, to see, to interact with the people, because you're talking to people that's all they do is fish, float, whatever, paddle, anything like that. So.
Yeah, stuff we used to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And I miss it. I miss it immensely. So hanging out, going to work, and your job is to talk to people about paddle sport. And about 75% of the people I talked to in the shop when I worked there they weren't fishing, they were floating, they were recreational paddlers. And it was just a joy to somebody coming in there that's never owned a kayak before, and talk to them about how these are made, why these are good, getting something that's in the budget that they want to stay within there, and then they leave. And that was my favorite thing, was seeing somebody that was extremely happy in the choice they made, and then them coming back talking about how great of an experience it was. So we talk a lot about fishing and kayak fishing here, but honestly, not having those local paddle shops affects more than just us fishermen. So.
Especially in this area.
Yeah, and there's a lot of areas like that. You like any area that's got rivers, lakes, a lot of good fisheries around it. Those are perfect spots for kayak. Look at our friend James with Midwest Kayak Company. They're in Cape Girardeau, Missouri. He's right by the Mississippi River. They've got some bodies of water around there also, and there's a lot of he's doing really well. If you watch my video on the Crescent Smalley, and I also did some content just kind of showcasing his shop, those are places that are worth supporting. Those are people with families. These are family-owned places. These are not, the number one thing I hear about people with kayak manufacturers is they're owned, like Hobie, they're owned by these investment groups. There's a lot of companies that are owned by investment groups. That's just your financial backing. Yak Attack is owned by an investment group. So, but it's just, these are places worth supporting. These are people that you develop relationships with over time. And those really, these are people that support the local communities, support the local kayak tournament groups. Like there's a lot to there's a lot to invest in there.
Shout out to James, because he actually got you to come with me to my home state, even though it wasn't where.
Yeah, we stayed out of Chicago, but we went to Illinois. Took some pictures. I was at shipping terminal at Randa, and they had a section that looked like a rotomolded kayak graveyard. Yeah,
I believe that.
Yeah. I think the whole time I worked in kayak retail, I think we shipped 2 kayaks. We tried it out, and one of them was damaged. One of them was just a real simple kayak that wasn't really a whole lot to damage. But yeah, it doesn't matter how you package it up. It doesn't matter how many labels you say, do not use forklift. Sure enough, there was a big old gouge on the side of it from somebody just running a forklift through it. So yeah, it's not good stuff. And my background, I worked for FedEx Freight for several years. Most of those companies don't want to ship rotomolded plastics because they're light, they're bulky, they're long, they take up space in that trailer, and they're expensive. So, and we'll kind of get back on Hobie here in a little bit, but I didn't want to just dominate the conversation with just them. Another thing is 2025. We're here in we're September 17th, so we're already past the midway point of September. We're getting into those fall months. kind of we're at the end or past the end of what I call kayak retail season. So who did it best in 2025, and maybe not who did it worse, but maybe a company that, a company or two that did, needs to improve a little bit.
There was a comment up here, the very first one. That was perfect for that.
What's that?
Seth Scott said, "No shitty hoodoo kayak talk here."
Gosh, Hoodoo. Yeah,
right.
I mean,
I'm going to jump in.
Yeah, please.
Because yeah, I'm still team Bonafide. This man and I have been talking about XTRs because we're crazy.
Yeah, the only thing that keeps me away from the XTRs, I don't run I don't run depth finders. And now I run a motor, but I've got a PWR and I like it better for me. But the XTR, I like the open platform. To me, the XTR is a cross between the New Canoe Unlimited and the PWR. So you get open deck space, which for me, wanting to film stuff, it's what I do. But I like my PWR. I think I'm kind of so. I mean, obviously, I think both of our, to me, the best in 2025 was Bonafide. That's just our opinion. Coming out with the XTR, that big boat energy, it makes us all revisit the whole boat versus kayak thing, which we all love. But Crescent was my number 2. And when I say number 2, I mean very, very close. Crescent is a company that, I mean, I've always known about them. I've always had a lot of experience with them, but they've really started to do some things that really kind of opened my eyes a little bit. For one, the Crescent Primo. You have a rotomolded American-made kayak everything is made in the States on that kayak, and it's $699. Now, it's not the kayak for everybody. It's not your big guy lake fishing kayak, but it's a American-made kayak for under $1,000. It's quality made. It performs well. It does everything you need it to do. And it proves the point that a lot of these other companies are not doing is an entry-level kayak that is quality. So someone doesn't have to go go to a big box store and buy a Lifetime or a Heritage or a Sun Dolphin to get into it. They can maybe save up a month more and get a Crescent Primo and get a better experience. And then if they want to keep going to Crescent, they can. Crescent makes a lot of great kayaks, or they can kind of play around with some other manufacturers depending on what they want to do. But Crescent, for sure, their lineup has grown, and I'm excited to see what they bring in the future. I'm kind of waiting on them to kind of get into more of that big water. Maybe if it's just one kayak, which would be my suggestion. There's a lot of companies out there that do a whole lineup of big water kayaks. I think when you think about that, like Jackson comes to mind. I think Jackson is really saturated in that big, heavy, wide, big water kayak. But Crescent, you got the Shoaly, which is phenomenal. You got the Smalley, which is like a Shoaly light. It's a little bit more of a stripped down Shoaly. I love the fact that they're using Ketch for the rails. So Ketch Products, who is a supporter of the channel, they make all the gear track for those, and it's just seeing one in James's shop was phenomenal. What would be one of what's your number 2?
My number 2?
Yeah.
Ooh. There's a part of me, I'm sitting here getting lost in the sauce over here with Crescent kayaks, and I think for me, I would agree with you, but it's simply because I didn't know about them as much as you did. It's kind of a new thing, and actually getting hands on one was super cool. And I mean, we tested out the Shoaly when we did the RVR, and I preferred the RVR at the time. Probably still do, because I think the Shoaly would probably flip me over. But that thing was impressive, man. And then seeing the Smalley is even cooler. So I think that plus like the light tackle, that's one that really interests me as well.
Yeah. I remember we sold it was a light tackle. that couple that when we went up to James's shop. So yeah, I mean, I like their performance, and I think those of you that look for a tandem fishing kayak, which I still share the opinion that's a terrible idea. If you're fishing, the Crescent Crew is the best 2-person kayak at a performance, at a functionality. You can motorize it. You can do a lot of stuff with it. And you can still make it into a solo kayak. You can run one seat on it. Very similar to what Jackson did with the Take Two. You can kind of make it into a 2-seater, which, you have high-low seats on, and then you can make a 1-seater, kind of put it in the middle. But the Crescent Crew, being a little lighter, being a little better paddle performing, they do a great job in focusing on paddle performance. And I always tell people, I don't care what kayak it is, your paddle performance matters. So if you're motorizing it, your paddle performance matters. If it's going to be a slug in the water, if you're paddling it, it's going to be a slug in the water. If you put a motor on it, you're just transferring your energy from your body to the battery. Battery's not going to last as long if you got a little 55-pound thrust mower or motor carrying a big slug through the water. It matters, and you're going to get more speed. You're going to get more efficiency. To me, if Crescent made something like the Unlimited or the PWR, which they're very capable of doing, you might have something on your hands there. So, and then, it's not a 2025 boat, but 2026, Big Adventures, which is Bonafide, Dagger, Native, Liquid Logic, they're coming out swinging already with the hammer. So I'm excited to see what our friends at Big Adventures is got coming on here next year, because I got the feeling they got something else up their sleeve that I don't know about. And I'm not sponsored by Bonafide, just so you know. I just like this Bonafide shirt, but yeah,
that one probably gets the most wear and tear out of all your shirts.
Oh yeah. I like it. It's one of the more comfortable shirts.
I'm looking at Viking kayaks right now. Apparently, it's a brand from New Zealand originally, and they've got U.S. presence.
Yeah. And, they've been around for a little bit.
They've been around since '99. So I'm looking at some of these. They've got some fitness and touring kayaks. They've got like 4 different ones. They all look really recreational, which is kind of cool. I will tell you that the seating are like those jumper seats. That's what they remind me of. I think we would die in those after a while. Yeah. We're a little spoiled. Emphasis on majorly spoiled.
So, and let me give an honorable mention. I don't want to really put them in a top 3 on who did it best, but most of you that follow the channel and watch these shows know I've been very critical of Jackson Kayak. Jackson Kayak, I think they've really done nothing to innovate. They've really and they've had some missteps, but they have really scaled back their pricing. And to my knowledge, they're one of the only companies to do that, but I think they needed to really, really badly. So specifically on their FD models, or their pedal drive models, the big rig FD went going way down. That kayak was like $4,000 when it launched out. I think it's down to
it's $27.99.
Yeah, that's crazy. And honestly, if you're launching a new kayak or relaunching an old kayak like they did, if you would have done that before, kind of get it back out on the market. But I don't know. I just them doing that, I think, is going to get more people the opportunity to get into the Jackson kayak. I've always thought Jackson did a good job of performance and stability, but man, their pricing since COVID has gone up just so much more than all the other manufacturers, at least that I had experience with.
Yeah, but I'm looking right now. The U-Pick's at $15.49, and that used to be like 17 something.
Yes. Yeah.
So even that's gone down.
Yeah. They've reduced some of the models that really needed, because again, you got some slow sellers out there. A few years ago, the U-Pick was $12.99, and it went all the way up to almost $1,800. So I think with that kind of stuff, you price yourself out of the niche that kayak was meant to fill. Plus, most of their kayaks, in my opinion, all of their kayaks are not bow mount ready. I know they kind of made some things on the Kusa X, got a little bit of a flat transom, but honestly, I'm not putting a bow mount motor plate on that. There's a lot of things you can do to facilitate that, to where you don't have to change the entire mold, and which costs a lot of money. But yeah, the NAR was a big fail. I enjoyed the NAR when I first got in it, but I didn't have long-term exposure in that kayak. The problems that people had with the deck bowing, they shipped out all that foam padding that you stuff in the deck of it. And, just not really listening to feedback from both your retailers and your pro staffs. And a lot of
you know how much it is now?
The NAR?
Yeah.
I don't even want to guess.
It's $33.49.
Oh my God. That was $42.99.
Mm-hmm.
And they charged $100 more for the red color, because it was a special edition Red Dawn edition, and it was just red. It's like, I don't know. I love Jackson. I own a Jackson. But man, the things that they did in the past were great. I feel like they've really had some stumbles, just specifically in fishing. They still make some good recreational kayaks, and they make a phenomenal whitewater product. But I feel like that's kind of where their heart is. And I always said they always had like an identity crisis a little bit, because they didn't know if they wanted to be a whitewater company or a fishing company, but their heart really seems to be in the whitewater. But I still think there's some room to grow there.
I'm going to say this because I'm, researching over here, but I'm thinking about how many kayaks Jackson used to have and what their lineup is now. And it's quite a bit lower, right?
Oh yeah.
But we also saw another company do this, and that was New Canoe. New Canoe
Yes.
really streamlined their lineup. They've got the Flint, the U10, the Unlimited, and that's pretty much
on their fishing lineup.
Yes, on the fishing lineup. I mean, they still have the F10, the Frontier 12, and Pursuit.
Yeah.
But
and now they're doing away with the Pursuit specifically, but the Frontier 12 and the F10, which is just a 10-foot Frontier, they moved to what they call the Access lineup, which they're not shipping them out with the 360 seats anymore. They ship them out with that little flat bench seat, and it gives you it obviously it lowers the price quite a bit. And I thought that was a good move personally. Again, the molds it's still a great kayak. It's an Unlimited that's 6 inches shorter. I mean, it's really, maybe not as good a drainage, but it's the same width. And the U10, which I'm doing the Take Me to the River series in, I love that kayak. And that's why New Canoe is the third company in 2025 that did it best. That U10, I knew it handled moving water well because of how it handles. But frankly, and honestly, I've got the flip down rudder with the foot control on it. I really haven't used it a whole lot. I haven't needed to use it. I've taken it on Jack's Fork River. I've taken it on the Buffalo. I've taken it on Bryant Creek around here locally. I have extreme confidence in that kayak. It's not like I'm paddling around a battleship. I would not want to take the 12.5-foot Unlimited down those rivers, just for the sheer fact that Jack's Fork River was a lot of paddling, but the U10 was great. That is probably one of my favorite kayaks out there, just because you get a swivel seat, you get a maneuverable kayak that you can move in really tight places. It's not too short. It's actually 10 inches long. So it's almost 11. It kind of gives you that sweet spot in too short versus too long. And the ability to move that seat forward and backward to distribute your weight, it changes the mechanics the way that thing handles. And I just, chef's kiss, love that kayak. So my do better, and honestly, I mean, yeah, I'm gonna throw a Hobie in there, but and somebody actually brought it up. Hoodoo kayaks, I think they've done better, and I'm not talking about their kayaks specifically, because they are what they are. I've talked with several of their pro staff people, the ones that are good communicators, put it that way. And they're not trying to be the greatest thing out there. They're not trying to be the top, they're not trying to be bona fide or, Hobie or, whatever you perceive as being the top kayak. They're filling a niche. They're filling a low price option. My biggest problem with them was talking about that they're made in the US and they're not. Now they're moving models to be made in the US, but to me, the fact that they're using made in Texas versus made in the US is kind of where it's at. They're not really made in the US. They're manufactured in the US. They're designed in the US. But again, if you're still getting those hulls, that means something though. And I know there's a cost in it. I know there's a way to keep costs down, and that's getting things from overseas. But in today's market, today's climate, especially politically with the tariffs and all that, it's a lot harder to control that price point now as it was just a few years ago. So I think that'll calm down after a while, obviously. And there's nothing wrong with doing that. But I just didn't like the fact that they're trying to make it seem like they're doing that. You know what I mean? Like if I'm making something at home and I'm making it from scratch, I'll say I'm making it from scratch. If I'm making something in the kitchen from store-bought stuff and I'm just throwing it together, I'm going to say that. I'm not going to say, I'm not going to go get Kraft mac and cheese and, boil some water and then say, man, I made this from scratch. I cut my own noodles. I shredded my own cheese, all that. No. I mean, just say what you are, be honest, be transparent, and let people decide for themselves whether they want to buy your product or not. It's kind of tricky marketing, if you ask me.
I'm going to throw one out of left field at you because I don't really consider them fishing kayaks, but they've got fishing kayaks.
Yeah.
Wilderness System.
Oh yeah! Holy crap! Yeah.
And they're under Confluence, so it's Pelican and it's Perception and all of them. And that was the Tactical Pro. Is that what it's called?
Yes. Yeah.
It's just we saw it in person and the flex on it. It was just I know what they were going for. It just kind of reminded me of the fail that was the NAR.
You know what? That's a very good. The Tactical Pro actually reminded me more of the Ascend 133X.
Yeah, the flex on it was about right.
Yeah, especially with the flex. It looked. I know, when it came out at ICAST, it won Best of Show, or there's things behind that just aren't really, because they also had the XTR at that same that same one, and it was just one of those things where it wasn't submitted. You submit it in a class. I don't really care, but that got it a lot of publicity, and a lot of people wanted it. It's something that you can just throw a bow mount motor on. It was made for that bow mount motor. But man, seeing one in person, it was a huge disappointment. It looked cheaper.
And I think that's the thing. So I'm sitting here looking at the specs on this thing.
Mm-hmm.
It weighs 158 pounds. Okay, that's actually 10 pounds more than the NAR. I'm going to throw that out.
Yeah.
It says it has an 800-pound capacity, max capacity. But I can honestly tell you, seeing the flex on it just by pressing down on it, it's a little terrifying.
Yeah. And with the flex, I mean, it's just that's a longevity issue. And Wilderness is a company that's really, I don't know that they've ever been just at the forefront of something, but they've made great kayaks. The Tarpon is probably one of the biggest selling kayaks out there. And I'm talking about like quality kayaks. It's still to this day, but their pricing has gone way up on that. And, they had the Recon, which the Recon is a decent kayak. It's a great big water kayak. It's it's a good motorized platform. Their pedal drives just really weren't the greatest thing out there, but I don't know a lot of people that really buy Wilderness Systems for their pedal drives, because when you're talking about that kind of a price, there's a lot of things in that same price range. When you're talking about Old Town, you're talking about Jackson's, all of that. But yeah, and then with some of the rumored issues with Pelican International, I don't think Pelican's going broke, but there was kind of a news article out there about them intending on filing a Chapter 11, I believe, bankruptcy and insolvency, which basically sounds like they, Pelican, which I believe is based out of Canada, is wanting, I think, to unload the the American manufacturing, the perceptions, the wilderness systems, all of that. I think that would be a good thing, honestly. I think merging them with another company could be a very big benefit for those brands, because I still think Perception, to me, is the best budget-friendly kayak out there. But wilderness system, I agree.
One thing that I keep seeing over here is native, and I'm gonna tell you I forget about native, because when I talk about bona fide and native are the same for me. So when I talk about them being at the top of their game, I throw native in there because they've done wonders with the tight necks, and that thing's a beast.
Yeah, it's nice. It's nice, but it's a heavy.
Yeah, but I mean, they, if you want to go all out, then go all out.
Yeah,
Canada doesn't like us. That's not surprising.
I mean, we're not the easiest people to like sometimes. I get it, but yeah. So that's kind of our thing on 2025. And let me just say here, and I saw some comments about Hoodoo. There's kind of a long issue there with being Hoodoo. Most of my issue with them is not with the company in general or their kayaks. It's with the way their pro staff interacts with people online, and just really almost cyberbullying people into, insisting on, Hoodoo kayaks. But they're making some changes. They're doing some things. I hope they get it together. I hope they really and I want them to do it right, obviously, because obviously you don't want to do things too quickly, but there's nothing wrong with a foreign made kayak. Now, I say that, I don't personally like them, but if you got a Vibe or a Feel Free or any of those brands and they're doing well for you, which they do for people, there's nothing wrong with that. Personally, I like them because I like having the quality process all in-house. So most of these manufacturers, you got the resins, you got the oils going together, you got the molds, you got the ovens. That all costs money, which is why you see a lot of these prices where they're at. But if there's a problem, if you got some hull cracking, or if you got some, some weak spots, you can stop it right there. You can correct it. You can get a new mold. You can repair the mold and then correct it through your warranty process and get those out to dealers quicker, instead of waiting on them to come from a boat overseas. There's a lot of issues that creates. And I'm not saying that, all of these companies, it's not 100% US, your fittings, a lot of that stuff comes from overseas, your buckles on your seats, your straps, all that stuff. So, but the hull itself, the plastic part of the boat, that having a high density plastic that is easy to repair, that's kind of where that comes into play too, just for me personally.
Forgot about the hammer.
Yeah, I'm excited to see that. I hope it's just as good as it looks. Hans is saying that is the fastest kayak that they've made. I'm looking forward to seeing speeds with a motor on it, because that's what it's for. It's for putting a motor on it, being able to take that pedal drive out of there easily, and honestly, having a good pedal drive system on there that doesn't take up all the space in the deck, and having a motorized kayak, it eliminates the need to have your spot lock, in my opinion. So if you got, motor to your spot with your Torpedo or your Newport, get to your spot, then you start pedaling around to kind of maintain your boat position. Spot lock is great. I love spot lock. I used it for a long time, but you're going to always be facing into the wind or into the current. So I like the pedal drive options because, especially with your bicycle style, that instant reverse, a good rudder on it, you can maintain and keep that boat pointed the way you want it to, not the way Mother Nature wants it pointed to. And I think the hammer is going to really be interesting to see if what they intended on it to be is actually what it is, but I think that's going to be a really, really nice seller.
Quick question for you. Off topic, same thing though.
Yeah, we don't allow that here.
How much was the RS-117 previously?
The RS-117?
Mm-hmm.
It got up to $1,099, but now I think it's $999.
It is $999. I couldn't remember. I thought it was $10.99 before.
Yeah, it was. Same thing with the new Canoe Flint. The new Canoe Flint got up to $1,099, and then now it dropped down to $999 also. And I've seen, again, this is a great time to buy kayaks right now too, because there's a lot of people marking down kayaks. I think James at Midwest Kayak Company, he's got those listed for $799. The RS-117. I mean, that's a great kayak. I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think the RS-117 was actually designed along Chad Hoover. So they were kind of wanting to make a budget-friendly kayak with a lot of features, frame seat, high and low, stable. It's not a speedboat by any means, and it's not something you want to throw a bunch of motors on and batteries, but it'll get you around. It's light, and it's just a good budget-friendly, what I call entry-level kayak. Again, it's not a $500 kayak, so you're still spending some money there, but.
All right, let's switch gears a little bit.
Switching.
Let's talk about accessories.
Yeah, so holidays are around the corner. So you fish, you like kayaks. I have nothing to do with either one of those things. What would you like for the holidays?
Oh man.
What are your favorite accessories? Put it that way.
Ones that I own currently.
Or ones that you want. What piques your interest?
The Yak Attack phone holder.
You know what? That I'm surprised that took as long as it did for Yak Attack to make a phone holder. I think even Hobie had a similar phone holder, a little Ramball mount phone holder before Yak Attack did. But yeah, having that is because phones, especially when you're talking about tournament fishing, but you don't have to be a tournament fisherman to want to take pictures of your fish or you on the kayak or those beautiful scenic photos that a lot of you shared on Facebook there. Because they're like being on the water on a kayak will turn any amateur photographer into a pro really quick. You're talking about sunsets, you're talking about skies, landscapes. It's absolutely phenomenal. And having a phone holder or even a phone tether, like you see Rogue Gear makes, where you tether it to your jacket so you're not dropping your phone in the water if you're taking those pictures. I think those are really worthwhile, and they're not super pricey.
There's two others that definitely we own. The first one is our catch boards. I freaking love those.
Yeah.
Granted, they are personalized, so that's part of the love.
Yeah.
The other thing that I think has surprised me so much is these things. The little Naco power banks.
Ooh, look at you.
And honestly, I think part of the reason that this surprised me so much is like we have so many of those battery banks. Like I literally, I went to TJ Maxx of all places and found some 10,000 amp hour ones, and we were just attempting or milliamp hour ones.
Yeah,
we were.
Yeah, it's 10 amp hour basically.
There you go. So I was trying to get all that stuff for him, and it was a giant pain in the butt. And then we lost a couple. There's one in the Buffalo somewhere.
Yeah.
And it was just like, you've now used them once because we really haven't been on the river. But it surprised me so much at how well they handled. And then they have little stash packs.
Yes. It's like a silicone cover that goes over it.
I will say the thing that I like about these the most is if you're in a river, black is going to get lost. It's just going to get lost. And so, I mean, we went with bright blue, and then we have one that's a red and white and blue color. And yep, there you go. And that's the thing is
Look at that.
they're just bright and they're super easy to charge. And they've got carabiner clips on them. And I mean, honestly, I was super impressed with it. I really, really was.
So you got a USB-C and you have a USB port. So I've got a light right here. That light has been running off of the power on this for the whole video. So and again, I'm not sponsored by Naqua. I've put out content for them because I support what they're doing. I'll do a video on that here pretty soon, actually, about the whole controversy there at ICAST. But this thing, I bought 3 of these because I've got 3 different cameras that I use on my video series on the rivers there. So I've got the Insta360 X5, which I just did that video on. I've got a DJI Action 5, and then I've got an old GoPro. I ran this last trip on Bryant Creek. I ran all 3 cameras on one of these. These actually outlasted my SD card, my memory cards in those cameras. I've never had a power bank do that before. And like she said, we have those anchors, which is a good name in portable banks. This is the same power supposedly as those anchor banks, but this lasted a lot longer. Those other ones just didn't last very long at all. Now, I'll say this, they're not waterproof. Reason being is you're plugging it into an outside source. Anything that's not sealed, those plug-ins, it's weatherproof. So again, if it's raining out there, whatnot, but you can, if you're wanting to film a hike or outdoor adventure, you can have it on the chest mount. You can clip this on to your life vest. There's a lot of things you can do. But I can't say enough about this. So I bought 3 for my use on the water. I reached out to them when I did that, and they sent me a 4th one.
You got to talk about these, though.
Yes. So talk about that.
Okay, so you're going to laugh. The first time I ever saw one of these was at work. We got them this summer. Not these specific ones, but we got something like it. I had no idea what it was. Like, me being old, I'm sitting there, I'm like, I don't understand. But what it is you can plug in, like they have all the different kinds, USB, or USB-C, micro USB, and then it says smartphone. So I'm assuming that's the old Apple chargers. Yeah. And what's cool about them is if you have one of these, you can plug it into a USB and a USB-C from the same thing. So it's basically like a cord, but you have all the different attachments to it. And so that was super cool because I know I think you used that on one of the power banks.
Yeah.
As well.
It's a splitter basically. It'll split it to where you can do the new Apple phones, which is now a USB-C, Android, and your old Apple products. So like I've got an old iPad that I hooked up to what they call the smartphone attachment. But what are we doing today? We're going to give one of those away, aren't we?
We're giving all 3 of these things away.
All 3 of those. Okay. So the power bank, which is 10 amp hour, the sleeve, the stash pack. So we got 2. We got the blue there. I know that kind of looks purple, but it's blue.
It's blue.
And then we got the
red. Seth Scott's name right now.
And then we've got the red, white, and blue, which you see here. I'll give whoever wins this, I'll give you the option of whether you want the blue or the red, white, and blue. And that splitter is money. So that is nice if you wanted to keep it on like your nightstand. It doesn't have to be a fishing accessory, but I tell you, this thing, compact. These are innovative too, because again, they've been making those power packs for both their website. They made them for Yak Attack there for a long time too, but we've owned those for several years, and my first one that I bought still works. I used it to power my fish finders when I had those. But what we're going to do, so if you would get on, follow Naqua. Follow Naqua as Naqua's Adventure Gear. Like their page, whatever you need, and then share it and tag me in it. I know that sounds like a lot, but just like their page, share their page, and then tag me in it. That will enter you into this drawing. We will choose one of those at random. We'll have the little randomizer tool that we've got on the computer there, and then we will send you all 3 of those items at no charge. Obviously, in the lower 48 states, I'm just a small video guy here, so I can't ship anything to Australia or China or anything. But yeah, it's a good opportunity to get your hands on a really good piece of equipment and gear. And again, I'm not sponsored by Naqua, but I consider them a great company and just doing the right things. So go like Naqua Adventures, share their page, tag Bearded Paddler, and what I mean is on Facebook. So but yeah, it's just a way for me to help them out. I know they do well, but again, a lot's been made of the whole ICAST thing. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, I shared that video that they put out. Basically, the old power packs, the little Yak Attack power packs, it has, powered by Naqua. And I guess Naqua heard at ICAST that Yak Attack was going to continue on with that, but drop their name from that product. That is their design. There it is. So there's the Yak Attack power pack. See what it says up there? Powered by Naqua. So basically what they were doing was they were going to drop that label off the top and just put their name on it. Yak Attack took a lot of heat from ICAST with the whole motor, rebranding a motor and all that. I don't have a problem with that at all. That company knows what they're doing. That company was there with them, actually. And they did an interview. I think it was Yak Tribe did an interview with, I believe, the CEO of Yak Attack, and Luther was actually there too. But they were only talking about sourcing stuff overseas. And that's not a huge deal. It's a deal, but, it's something that people need to know. But to me, this really kind of struck a nerve with me personally, because first of all, I don't think Yak Attack needed to do that, but they did apparently. So whether they continue on down that road and actually release it like that, I would like to think that they wouldn't, because I think Yak Attack has enough of a presence and they're big enough. They can make their own battery. They can seal their own batteries and do their own thing. Let Naqua do their thing. You do your thing. And I think we're all going to be fine with that. But yeah, I had kind of an issue with that. And, I've had people reach out to me, and again, I'm not going to name drop on this because, again, I'm going to let them speak for themselves there. But I've had people that represented both brands and some people that actually represented or each individual brand. And I had some that actually represented both brands, and they weren't okay with it either. They weren't aware of it. And then when they found out, it kind of really made some people seriously consider their alliances there. But again, I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a judge. So I'm not gonna get too deep into that, but
Facebook for the follow, by the way.
Yes, for sure. And, just go to their website. Go to their website, check out their products. I think you'd be surprised. They make a lot more than just power banks and portable batteries. They came out at ICAST with a kayak lighting kit that looked really nice, just the light strips and all that. So check them out. It's Naqua, Nocqua. I know when I first started talking about what was going on, I was misspelling it. So that's my public school education there for you.
You also got corrected on that.
Oh yeah. And honestly, guys, I have no problem being corrected. I need it sometimes. So if I say something wrong.
Can I get that in writing? Actually, no, it's not in recording.
Yeah. This recording will self-destruct. All right, we're right at an hour. Look at us go.
Guardian Angel for your nav lights.
Yeah. And honestly, I've worked with them too. That's a quality company. That's their own. That's it's a different design. Put it that way. So it's an innovative product, and those things are bulletproof. I like them. I like the. There's some other lighting kits out there that may give you some more, a little bit more brightness if you're wanting that. But honestly, the Guardian Angel lighting gives us really what we need. You don't get a huge amount of battery out of that if you're wanting to use the brightest possible setting. So sometimes having a lighting kit with an external battery, but if you're just wanting a magnetically mounted lighting that's remote controlled, and it's under, I don't know what it is now. It was like 189 when I worked with them there for about a year. But $189 to get everything possible you need to get yourself legal is pretty good in my opinion, instead of having to buy additional batteries, wiring kits, all of that. So more education than I have. Never admit you can be wrong in front of your wife. Well, I think she pretty much knows. She's the educated one. Yeah. All right, guys. Well, I think we're here at the end of this. Again, I wanted to really appreciate, just thank everybody for jumping on here with us. Again, there's a lot of stuff going on here. I think ultimately it's just time will tell how much of it's good, how much of it is going to affect. I mean, honestly, the whole Bass Pro thing, if you loved Hobie before, you're probably still going to love Hobie afterwards. If you're not sure about Hobie, that may be, I think, where they gain or lose some people there. And if you hate Hobie, you're probably going to still hate Hobie afterwards. So Bass Pro, I think they're not in the business to lose money. And I refuse to think that they're going to get involved in anything that is not going to be running somewhat decent. So whether that means they're going to move it out of Mexico and make them in the States again, which is something I would like to see personally. Time will tell. Only Bass Pro knows what the future holds for Hobie, but I'm excited for it. I really am. I think it gives them some financial backing that is really needed, and maybe a company that is outdoor and on the water motivated, as opposed to financial backing from a group that is just looking at green and red on that bottom line. So do you have anything to add, Christina? Anything?
The only thing I think of is what happens to warranties. That's the only concern.
Yeah, that's going to be an issue. I think if there's any advice I can give to anybody listening, is that warranty and service, pay attention to that, because that is going to matter. If you're not going to get that from Bass Pro, where are you going to get it from? And just like the question I posed on my Facebook page, how far is that away from you, those local paddle shops, or specifically local Hobie shops? But I think it would surprise me if Bass Pro didn't take care of them. They did the same thing with Tracker Boats. Tracker Boats or Ranger Boats, not Tracker Boats. Ranger Boats is based just down the road from where our home is there. So they still have the home plant there. It's got Bass Pro branding on it, but it's still Ranger Boats. The people that wanted to work there still work there. And, again, it's going to be interesting to see what happens for sure.
Yep.
But anyways, guys, appreciate you. I think the next video I got coming out hopefully will be the 4th episode of Take Me to the River. And as always, guys, thank you so much for watching. We appreciate you, and we'll see you on the next video.